At the southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula, right where Europe almost touches Africa, sits a tiny, jagged peninsula. It covers barely 2.5 square miles of land. Despite its physical connection to the Spanish mainland, the culture here is fiercely British. You'll see classic red telephone booths and police officers in British uniforms, all sitting right next door to their European neighbor. This isolated strip of limestone is home to around 34,000 people. It has no natural rivers or farms, but it is the only place in Europe with a population of wild monkeys. This map shows the Strait of Gibraltar, visualizing the massive volume of global shipping traffic squeezing through this 9-mile-wide gap. Whoever controls this specific maritime choke point has the power to monitor half the world's seaborne trade. Because of that immense strategic value, Spain and Britain have been locked in a bitter, unyielding standoff over who actually owns this rock for over 300 years. Curious, it presents a strange geopolitical puzzle: how a piece of land smaller than an airport generated a diplomatic stalemate that shows no signs of breaking. The British presence here began through military force. In 1704, during the War of the Spanish Succession, an Anglo-Dutch naval fleet bombarded the coastline and captured the rock. The conflict was officially settled a few years later with the 1713 Treaty of Utrecht, where the Spanish king formally ceded the territory to the British crown. But the drafters of the treaty left behind a massive legal loophole. The text yielded the propriety of the town and castle, but explicitly denied Britain any territorial jurisdiction over the adjacent land and waters. It also included a strict first refusal clause. If Britain ever decides to give up control of the territory, it cannot become independent. It must automatically revert to Spain. Those vague 18th-century phrasing choices separated the ownership of the buildings from the jurisdiction of the land itself. By failing to clearly define the borders, the diplomats at Utrecht accidentally engineered a permanent border crisis. Spain immediately regretted the agreement. Starting in 1779, Spanish and French forces subjected Gibraltar to the Great Siege. For nearly 4 years, they tried to starve and bombard the British into surrendering, making it the longest siege in British military history. The British responded with extreme engineering. Soldiers manually carved miles of tunnels deep into the sheer limestone cliff face to create secure, elevated firing positions. From these excavated windows, gunners fired superheated, red-hot cannonballs down onto the attacking fleets, incinerating enemy ships before they could reach the shore. That culture of heavy fortification continued straight into the 20th century. During World War II, General Dwight D. Eisenhower used Gibraltar as the secure Allied command base to plan the invasion of North Africa. The military took the defense of the rock so seriously that they initiated Operation Tracer, a secret plan to bury a team of British spies alive inside a concealed cave to report on enemy movements if the territory ever fell. These 3 centuries of relentless physical attacks forged the territory into an impregnable psychological symbol of the British Empire. After World War II, Spain shifted its strategy. Instead of military force, the regime of General Francisco Franco turned to economic pressure, completely shutting the land border in 1969. For 16 years, telephone lines were cut and thousands of workers were blocked from crossing. This diagram illustrates Spain's legal argument of territorial integrity. Madrid views Gibraltar as an amputation that should be absorbed into the Spanish mainland. But Britain counters with self-determination, arguing the primary concern is the locals' right to choose their own government. And the locals made their choice very clear. In multiple referendums, the citizens of Gibraltar have almost unanimously rejected any proposal of Spanish sovereignty. But recently, a new complication arrived: Brexit. An overwhelming majority of Gibraltarians voted to remain inside the European Union, but they were pulled out by the wider UK vote. This forced exit threatened the fluid, daily trade across the Spanish border. It sparked intense economic anxiety, pushing both sides into rushed diplomatic negotiations to prevent the border from freezing over again. Today, Gibraltar is a dense, thriving modern city. Its economy relies on financial services and global shipping, yet it remains trapped in diplomatic limbo. The modern dispute represents a direct clash between a centuries-old treaty drawn on a map and the human rights of the thousands living there today.